So welcome today. We are doing an educational video. It's the first of many. I had to think to myself what was going to be the first video that I wanted to do. And naturally I thought, okay, we're doing motherhood. Motherhood is a journey, and where does that journey start? Well, it's pregnancy. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to help educate people who should exercise during pregnancy and what would I have done differently. So there's a couple of things that I want to just put as disclaimers here right now. Any form of exercise that you are looking to engage in during your pregnancy period, please make sure you get advice from your care provider, whether that's your obstetrician, whether that's the nurse, your midwife. They will give you guidelines on where to start. Normally set your parameters and say, okay, you're good to go with exercise, or maybe you should see someone in order to start an exercise program, because your midwife or your obstetrician, your nurse, they're going to try and get you involved in physical activity. They're not going to say, okay, well, you've never done exercise before, just go and sit on the couch for 9 months. It's good to keep some form of fitness during your pregnancy, because one, it will help keep you sane, it will give you good mental health, and two, it will help in the long term because it's tough. Pregnancy is tough. Postpartum, if you've not prepared yourself fitness-wise during that time, it's really hard to pick it up for those first few months when you've got little one. Now, the care provider itself will probably not give you a list of exercises that you can do. They'll give you some options and they will give you some ideas. So another good person is to get a personal trainer, but a personal trainer that is registered in prenatal and postnatal training, because they will know exactly the exercises to do and how to train clients safely and effectively.
And I've been chilling, watching the ocean with you, baby, up with a slow motion.
You can engage in 150 minutes of cardiorespiratory exercise. Now, that doesn't change during pregnancy. You can definitely do that, and you can do more. Now, what are cardiorespiratory exercises? Well, obviously you can do things like walking. Walking is so beneficial because it is a mental stress relief, and it's an easy activity. It's cheap. It's a really good form of exercise that you can do whenever and wherever. When we talk about walking, this is constructive 20 minutes, 30 minutes of consistent walking. Other activities you can do include stationary cycling, yoga-based activities, and you'll normally find classes that are designed for prenatal clients in yoga, because there'll be certain moves that you can and can't do during pregnancy. Dancing's really good, so you can lift weights during pregnancy, but we're going to talk about that at another point, just because there's a little bit more to it than just saying go and lift some weights. What we're going to just say quickly is that you've got to base it on your pre-existing fitness journey. If you're really physically active and engaging in 4 to 6 days of exercise per week prior to your pregnancy, you'll be more than likely to engage in most of the activities that you're already doing. So if you were a competitive runner, or if you ran like 5 or 6 days a week, you can still engage in activities like jogging during your pregnancy. If you want to jog, you can obviously reduce the intensity, because the only thing I would say in jogging is that later on in the pregnancy, so when your centre of gravity shifts and your bump grows, that's when you consider whether you're going to carry on jogging, just because of the risk of falling. If you hadn't engaged in exercise before being pregnant, that's where you build it up at a much more gradual rate.
Slow motion crew, and we up in our clouds when people change, but
We all dream as women of that perfect birth. I'm going to have a water birth, and music's going to be playing in the background, and everything's going to be perfect. And exercise can help that dream. Again, massive disclaimer, exercise does not ensure that you are not going to end up having a C-section. It can help, it reduce the likelihood of it happening, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have it, because there are other factors that play into it. I don't want you to come out of this and go, well, Lisa's told me that I'm going to have a fine pregnancy now and that I'm not going to have a C-section, so that's good and I'm going to have a lovely water birth, because I was meant to have a water birth and it didn't end that way at all. It reduces your weight gain. So you can see on the table here, we have healthy weight gains based on your BMI. So if you're underweight when you are pregnant at the start, you normally gain more weight during pregnancy to meet the demands of the baby's needs and how the baby is growing. If you're overweight at the start, there is less need for you to gain as much weight during your pregnancy. Why is it important to reduce that weight gain? See, a lot of the time people think, great, I can eat what I want and I don't have to exercise because I'm looking after my baby. So you're looking after yourself as well, and that's something that's so important. At the end of the day, if you gain more weight during pregnancy, it will impact on your weight distribution. So you might put extra, again, we're talking about that extra stress on the joints, because the joints go under so much during pregnancy. So the hormone relaxin in our body is obviously increased during pregnancy, and with that comes increase in relaxation of your joints. You're able to mobilise more, but that can put extra stress on your joints. So if you are then increasing your weight from that as well, obviously that's going to play in part with how much stress you're putting on those joints. Again, as well, you have to think post-pregnancy. You already have to think postpartum. And the other thing is that if you have obviously gained extra weight during your pregnancy, it can affect your mood. And again, after your pregnancy, you have so many different emotions flying through your body. And the last thing you want to be thinking about is, oh, I've put on those extra pounds. You want to be physically active, because the first few months, they're hard. They're so enjoyable, but they're challenging. You need your body to be ready and be prepared to be in non-stop. That's why walking's so good, because you're going to do a lot of walking when your baby's up in the middle of the night and you're trying to soothe it back to sleep. So other things that you can help to reduce with exercise is the likelihood of developing gestational diabetes. But exercise can help reduce that chance, and that's what we're talking about. We're not saying it completely wipes it out, because that's just not realistic, but we can definitely talk about the reduction in the likelihood. It can help reduce preeclampsia, it can help reduce preterm birth, it can help to lower the birth weight of the child if you're actively engaged in exercise. And again, like I said, I had an 11-pound baby, so there are things that do help along the way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be certified that certain perfect birth.
But not us, and we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun, could be soaked to the skin.
If you have already got risk factors for preterm birth, they will normally say to avoid exercise, and this will be again through your care provider, through your obstetrician, through your nurse, through your midwife. So again, this is what I say, listen to your care provider. They know the best course of action for you. If you experience vaginal bleeding or a ruptured membrane, you won't exercise. Any of these that I'm going to say right now, please make sure that if you are pregnant, that you stop. If you experience abdominal pain at any point, if you feel dizzy, if you suffer from dyspnea, which is the shortness of breath, if you have amniotic fluid leakage, you notice that there's a fluid leakage that's slightly different to what you might ever have seen before. If you experience vaginal bleeding or painful contractions, again, please stop exercising straight away. Experience headaches or chest pain, muscle weakness or calf pain or calf swelling. So any of those risk factors that I've just said, please make sure that you stop exercising straight away and go to your care provider, contact your nurse, contact your midwife. We want you to engage in exercise, we want you to be physically active during pregnancy, but we want to do it in a safe way, and we want to do it in a way that is good for you, like we said before, for you and for your baby. I'm going to talk about why it is important to do weight training during pregnancy. The reason for doing weight training during pregnancy is because you're trying to strengthen all those muscles and those joints around you. We know that relaxin is a hormone that is produced during pregnancy, so the idea that you are to strengthen the muscles during pregnancy can help to stabilise, one, your abdominal region and your back. We know in pregnancy your centre of gravity shifts because obviously your bump is growing. So when your bump grows and it pushes your centre of gravity, because you are carrying a child an awful lot of the time, which is lovely because you're holding your child, but you might not necessarily be thinking about how you're holding yourself, and when you don't think about that, you might be leaning too much and you'll be causing extra stress on your low back. So if you can strengthen your low back prior to this happening, you're going to help yourself in the long term postpartum. And again, this is what we're trying to focus on.
I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same.
One, contact sports. If you play basketball, if you play ice hockey, if you play volleyball, please stop. Okay? I can only provide suggestions. You don't want to put your baby or yourself at risk, and I think that in the short term, not playing a sport that you might really enjoy and instead trying something different, and I think that's how you've got to embrace it. Instead of saying, oh, I can't play the sport I love, oh, I'm going to try yoga for a change. To avoid obviously things like skiing, cross-country skiing, anything that's classified as dangerous. Other exercises to avoid are things where you may increase the risk of falling, like horse riding. That's where I said jogging comes into play. So if you are jogging on uneven surfaces, you can increase the risk of falling. So if you are a regular jogger before falling pregnant, please be careful during pregnancy that as your centre of gravity shifts, that you take that into account when you are jogging, and that further down the line, consider whether it's the safest option for you. When we're talking about abdominal exercises, so there are obviously things that you want to avoid. Anything where you are laying supines, particularly after the first 20 weeks, because you don't want to develop fetal hypoxia, which is where the baby doesn't get enough oxygen. Other things you want to avoid are things like doing full sit-up, toe touches, leg raises, leg lowers, anything basically where you're putting strain on your lower abs. So next we need to think of the environment that you're exercising in as well. So water-based exercise, you may be surrounded by water, but you need to still make sure that you are, one, taking enough fluid, and two, that you are taking into account the heat and the humidity of a pool environment. Okay, the pools are hot. When you go in water, you cool yourself down. So you're going through transitions of temperature. So you need to make sure that you are not overheating your body during exercise. So please be aware of that. And the idea of heat and humidity stays in the pool and also out of the pool. So if you are exercising outdoors, make sure that you're aware of the temperature and the climate that you are exercising in. So whether you think about changing the time of day you exercise, how long you exercise for, the intensity you work out for. 'Cause you got me holding, even if my jokes aren't funny. So if you were to do a sample exercise program, this is what you could expect to see. Some form of aerobic activity, so you might include walking, stationary bike, like we said, those aerobic activities, and some strength conditioning. Just make sure that you avoid anything jarring, sudden movements. The intensity, so you should be able to talk comfortably between yourself and someone else. So if you're doing a brisk walk, you can still talk to the person that you're walking with. You want to avoid anything that involves the Valsalva maneuver, so that's the idea of holding your breath. If you're a beginner to exercise, similar to being a beginner not pregnant, so that you're increasing the duration gradually and not making sudden jumps up. So a good starting point is like 15 minutes of exercise. And like we said, working towards that 20 to 30 minutes of exercise per day. If we're talking about strength sessions, so you can go from 15 minutes up to 30 to 40 minutes. 40 minutes 3 to 4 times a week. So what would I do if I was lucky enough to fall pregnant again? One, I was actively engaged in walking throughout the whole pregnancy. Walking was something that I enjoyed doing. It gave me that stress relief that I needed. I didn't make it feel like a form of exercise, I made it feel like more of a mental health benefit and something more of a stress relief, rather than thinking, okay, I've got to fit 30 minutes of walking a day into my routine. And it allowed me to think, okay, what else can I do? And that's where I fell. I did do strength training, not properly, not heavily. I didn't go to the gym. But for me, I then did strength training outside of the gym at home, but I wasn't consistent enough in it and I wasn't structured enough. So next time I would definitely follow more of a strength training based regime. I would want to make sure that I involve all parts of the body and that I'm really focusing, like I said, on that lower back and the abs. It is such a fun and exciting time when you are pregnant, but you need to make sure that you are making yourself and your baby the priority, and being healthy and active is the best way to do that. So once again, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it the like. If you have any questions, please make sure that you put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit the little notification bell. And I look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon. Bye for now.